What is up, everybody? In this episode, we find some surprising statistics on youth sports that you might find very interesting and very intriguing. Also, this is going to set us up for a conversation with a special guest next week. So please enjoy this conversation. Cannot wait to hear your responses, and we will talk to you soon.
Let's finish it.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of The Closing Pitch. My name is Spiker Helms. Across from me is David Birkby, and this is a show about people, culture, and how to create a winning lifestyle. Like that little mix-up on that intro.
I did.
A little different. I felt like I needed
you introduced me before explaining what the show was all about.
Yes, I felt like it was a lot better because we need to get your name out there first.
Well, I appreciate the hype.
Yes.
I appreciate the pitch.
Cardinals baseball is going well.
Ish. Some days are better than others.
I am very, very impressed with Acuna Jr. right now.
Oh, yeah.
That dude is absolute dynamite. The things that he's able to
He hit
do
a ball 480 yesterday.
with the mechanics that he has is just unbelievable. I had that podcast with Propel Hitting, and we were talking about that.
I have not listened to that yet, but I am.
But we were talking about just different mechanics, and before we started the mics, I wish I would have recorded this. But he's like, think about Acuna Jr., like his mechanics. I was like, yeah, it's kind of interesting. He's like, he has a full-on arm bar, and he's able to hit the ball 400 feet. Like, how's that possible? I was like, you're absolutely right. And he's like, he's 20-something years old.
That's one of those. I mean, I'd love to understand, in all honesty, how much coaching of him goes into it. Or do you just kind of walk past him as a coach and be like, yeah, you do things that most people can't. So, hey, Josh, just keep doing what you're doing.
We've talked about this before, like skill acquisition. Yeah. Like you had Eric Miller.
Yeah.
Who, if no one knows who Eric Miller is, he was drafted by the Phillies.
Yeah.
And he went to Stanford. He was a Tiger. And I've never experienced what you said when you taught Eric. Like it was, I would say something and he would make it like the switch would just happen right away.
Yeah.
I had one of those players the other night. He's 14 years old, really good ball player. Mm-hmm. I would mention one thing and he literally switched it on a dime. I have not had that type of player like that.
Yeah.
Ever. I've had guys that are able to make corrections after like one or two times. Like I say something, they're able to make that correction. But then when they come back, like I have this guy tonight, so I don't know what it's going to look like. But I'm assuming it's going to be where we left off.
Yeah, I mean it's a rarity for sure. Don't get it twisted. It definitely doesn't happen often. It's very, very rare. The ones that are really good at it normally are the ones who like can see it and do it. Like not very often can they like take an audio cue, like I'm verbally telling them to do something and they do it. But if I show them something, they're like, oh, okay, I can duplicate that movement pattern just by what I saw.
Do you think it's genetic? Do you think it's that the person's very passionate about it and they can make the switch easier?
I think it's the passion side second to the unique ability on their part to literally just be able to see and do. It's really unique, man. It's like hand-eye coordination plus understanding of the concept, then basically taking it all in a matter of seconds and then being able to say, okay, now I can implement it here and I'm going to do it that way without even thinking of it that way. I mean, it's like, and then the real thing is, once they've done it, they're like, oh yeah, that felt better. Like, what do you mean it felt better? You just did it one time. How do you even know that felt? How do you know that? Mm-hmm. Did you see something like that much better out of it? Like, did you notice that much of a velo jump, or what do you mean? You've only done it once. But those guys are like that. They're like, they just have a different understanding of their body.
Because the only thing that I can compare it to is like myself. And so I did economics, which is math-based and graphic-based, right? Or graph-based. But I struggled in high school, like with algebra, like to an extent where I tried to get into college algebra and they're like, no, you still need to do like basic, like 101.
Yeah.
You need to go back to the freshman class. I was like, whoa. And then it just clicked. And I was like, oh, I got to pay more attention. I got to really actually apply the stuff that I'm learning.
Right. Well, and
I'm thinking to
you're
myself,
not you're in the norm, man. You're the normal people
so like,
out there.
But I'm like, I'm trying to figure out like, how does it feel to where you can just make an automatic switch where it's so easy to.
How do you know? How do you know that you're not normal?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I
how does a fish know that it's in water?
Well, I kind of like it was kind of funny. I think back to like the podcast that Rogan had Elon Musk on, and he was talking about himself as like a 6-year-old, having these wild thoughts of innovation, and I could do this and this and this, and he just thought that everybody thought like that everybody was him, until he started sharing those thoughts with people, and they were like, "Yeah, dude, I want to go to recess. What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Well, you're not like me. You're not thinking like me." And I'm assuming that's basically the same thing. That at some point those athletes are going to be like, well, yeah, well, listen, you just do this. You just like, you see the ball in the outside corner at 95 and you hit it that way. Like, you just do it. Or like, okay, yeah, well, okay, fine. I'll put a little bit more spin on the ball this time, or I'll get around, whatever. You just do it. Right.
Like I can do it. Like when I could see something, when I can see something, I can somewhat duplicate it. Right. Like athletically, like, the big thing that I saw was like Kobe Bryant was huge when we were little, right?
Yeah.
And every time he did the fade, I was like, oh, I can do that fade. And so then I would do the fade shot, right?
Yeah.
I could see that. So basic moves. But then giving a verbal cue, like hitting, it was just so different because we didn't have video back then. Well, we did, but we didn't use it. We had actually VCR tapes, this like big old block piece of plastic, and then you could like spin it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then do you remember like those big recorders, those camcorders? Yeah, my mom would carry it around like at Walt Disney World, and I was like, how awkward would that be now if you just saw someone carrying this big ass recorder?
Should bring it back, man.
I should do that for
Retro Day.
I should do that for our tiger, like during the tiger season.
Yeah.
Instead of using my camera, I just use the big ass recorder.
Go find a big. I don't even remember what it's called, but go find.
They
one.
had like one of those big.
I'm sure there's
mics
something
that came
dusty
all the way
on.
off. Yeah.
Somebody's selling it on Craigslist. I'm sure.
But anyways, going off of verbal cues, because like Hacker would be talking to me, and it was almost like Spanish to me, the things that he would say, and then finally, after a while, when he actually showed me a couple of his swings, like, oh, that makes perfect sense now.
I feel like verbal cues, you're never going to get them on the first 10, 15, 20 times you say it, but if you keep saying it over and over and over, and then you keep referencing back to what you're talking about, eventually those verbal cues become more important than the actual showing of it.
Yep.
It's just like a simple auto reminder of like this or that. I probably, my clients who have been with me for years are probably really tired of hearing the same words that I use every single time, but I'm not going to stop because I want it ingrained so bad in your head that in a game when no one's there, they mess up. It's almost as if I'm standing back there and boom, the word clicks. They're like, I know how to adjust.
Which this gets down to the point of this whole podcast that I really want to talk about is everyone knows that I'm really big on game adoption. I'm really big on skill acquisition. Mm-hmm. But more importantly, I want game adoption because I believe that this is one of the best games in the world, just from a standpoint of building character and also developing relationships. Said that countless of times. And one thing I want to there's a lot of people out there that in our space that are a little bit too hard on the players for younger age groups. And I kind of view it this way is that I like Fitzmaurice's his reference to how Canada and the United States go from basically crawling to podium, going from how do I get this person who just was born and get them to the podium at some point. I think we have a huge issue with where youth sports is going, and I'm going to reference some data today. Aspen Institute, which does some phenomenal research, socially as well as on the sports side of things. Like it's basically a company that just does research, and they always come out every year with the state of play, which is a breakdown of what's happening in youth sports. Their initiative is try to get more kids active as much as they possibly can. I think it goes back to like when Michelle Obama was in. Remember when she had like that thing where she tried
I kind of remember something of that.
crush obesity?
Yeah.
And then Pokemon Go came out, and then Pokemon Go basically crushed obesity. That was like the whole running joke. But the esports is on the rise, and I feel like as a baseball community, we are actually deterring players and kids away from the game. And Aspen Institute, I'm going from a 2019 report. I'm not doing the 2020 report because that's just not fair. I mean, we're just in a pandemic. It's not really fair to go off of those numbers. So one of the big numbers is that from ages 6 to 12 who played a sport on a regular basis, those numbers have actually declined since 2012.
Just in general youth sports.
Just in general youth sports.
Okay.
So 6 to 12, and they go from every sport imaginable. They have baseball, basketball, bicycling, cheerleading, field hockey, flag football, tackle football, golf. You get the gist. It's everything. And I'm sure they get these numbers from local associations, travel tournaments, you name it. They go off basically of events. So 49.1% of males were active
in the 6 to 12.
In the 6 to 12 range in 2012. Females were 33.5%. Now, in 2018, not now, but 2018, males are now at 38.6% and females are 31.4%. What that's telling me is that, one, esports is on the rise. Two, we're demanding a little bit too much from a youth sports standpoint, and we're not approaching it correctly from a fun standpoint, which I mentioned in the previous podcast with my dad. Ended up giving him a call, and he said the whole reason that we did it was I just wanted to make sure that you were having fun. Mm-hmm. And I went down further on the route and saying he didn't care what I did specifically skill-wise, as long as I was on a team that's having fun. And some people in our space are going against the thought that, okay, if you're not worth playing college, what's the point of even playing? There are people in our industry that believe that.
I hear it all the time.
Which is totally the wrong thing. If you are in the sports world, you should be focusing on. 7% of athletes get to college sports. 7%. So basically you're telling...
I think that's only 7% of people who play high school.
Yes.
Not 7% who have ever played.
But yeah,
that'd be like...
Okay.
I'm just saying. I mean, that makes it even lower.
Yes, that makes it even lower. But basically you're telling all your whole population who support you, saying if you don't play college, you should just quit right now. That is not the right approach. If you are in this game and you love this game, you should be trying to promote the heck out of this because you believe in it. And there's one person that I want to bring on to this podcast, and I've reached out to him. He has verbally said yes to us, which I'm very excited about. Mm-hmm. Coach Ballgame. His name's James Lowe. And he has a really great perspective on how to teach kids. Mm-hmm. Because he saw, in my opinion, we're going to get more into this when we invite him onto the podcast. But what I'm getting from it is that he saw that there was a huge problem with sports right now where we are too ultra aggressive and trying to win at all costs. Mm-hmm. And again, guys, I love winning. It is an unbelievable feeling. But what's more important is making sure that the kid is having fun. Now, is winning fun? Yes. But there's more than just winning. It's part of it. You solve a lot. Like, I'm going back to my JUCO coach. You solve a lot of problems when you win. You do. But at what cost? Are you willing to break everything to win?
I just think that from an outside perspective, so think of a parent or even a young player, right? I think that we do maybe not the best job in the world of providing education on the different levels or options available to you.
Bingo.
I think that is something that that most parents that I talk to at the younger age groups just don't even know what's available to them. Let's say we're taking a young athlete who's just wanting to get started in baseball. Okay, you're looking at you can, let's say you Google it. Where do I play, right? And what's going to pop up? Probably clubs like us. Okay. Mm-hmm. The travel baseball clubs that have teams at all different age groups, and there's a bunch of them in our area, and there's a bunch of them nationwide. They're probably going to pop up. The big travel companies that host tournaments is probably going to pop up. Things of that nature is going to be there, and then all of a sudden you're the consumer looking at this stuff being like, this is what my child has to do? He's just trying to learn how to play catch. Like, what are we – because now, I mean, again, not trying to say anything against us, but – it's kind of like pushed out the local entry level type stuff. But
here's a really good question for our listeners. Do you think recreational baseball is lower than you?
Well, that's what I was getting to. So my point is this. The labeling's all wrong. The outside perspective labeling is wrong. To just think, like, you hear this, just like you said, if you're, the perspective is if you're in high school baseball and you're not going to go play college, you're wasting your money and your time. You need to get out. Well, that's wrong.
False.
I'll bash that freaking terminology right here because I said from get-go that we service a bunch of different athletes at high school, and there's a bunch of different reasons to. We're servicing the kid who's working his tail off to make his freshman team and gain that experience. We're serving the kid that's working his tail off to maybe make varsity one day or just stay in the game through high school, which is really important because you're building a lot of friendships. You're having a very great experience, and you're going to learn a lot of things about you, and there's nothing to underscore that opportunity. And then we're also servicing kids who are going to end up making it to college, and you're going to find out along that way if that path is for you or if it's not. But either way, you can't discount your past experiences that you just gained. So we service that, right? Then there's the notion that, well, if you play travel baseball at the young ages and you're paying X amount, you're stupid. That's dumb because you're just paying for an experience that you don't need to do that. Just play here and play locally and do all that. And like, well, okay, but why, if they want that, why couldn't they? That's providing an experience. That's providing a service. Maybe then I'll be the first one to tell you that's not for everybody. There are parents and players that A, don't want that, B, don't have the time to do it, C, don't have the money to do it, or D, not ready to do that. So they might need a different experience. But there's a lot of travel clubs that offer that. There are different levels to this thing. It's not all just travel major, go to these crazy experiences all over the world. There's so many different levels to it and layers, and the labeling is wrong, right? And then for the beginner, to think that you just have to hop into some competitive travel type situation that a player isn't ready for, well, no. There's plenty of local leagues and associations everywhere that offer beginning type services, and you hit the nail on the coffin there, or whatever the phrase was.
Nail on the head.
Nail on the head. Thanks. Sorry.
We can go with coffin. I
didn't know where I went with that.
We can go morbid, or we can go optimistic. Whatever you want to do. Are we building a house, or are we building a crate?
You hit the nail on the head when you said that. Again, when you're just starting out, the primary focus should be fun. If you ever want to get anywhere in this game, there should be fun, and more fun being taught. There has to be a great experience provided and being created at those young levels, because there's no way a young player is ever going to stay in this game if there's pressure, negativity, yelling, just overwhelming expectations.
Well, it's opportunity cost.
Those are things that are just going to get you to go do something else. And now today, to your point at the start, there's more options than ever available for young people to do.
Yeah, like when you have an opportunity cost, I'm thinking to myself, like, why am I listening to this guy that keeps yelling at me and telling me what to do in a point where it's like not even fun? And now again, it goes back to, what are your goals? What are the things that you want to do, and what do you want to experience? Like, I did a whole video on this that's going to be releasing at the end of May. Mm-hmm. and we talk about how to select a travel sports experience or a local sports experience or just a recreational sports experience, because they're all different, right? So you have to understand, like, if you want to play college baseball, there are certain expectations. If you know, like, very early on, again, I was one of those guys. I knew I wanted to play college baseball at a very early age. I knew it right away. Like 7th, 8th grade year, I want to play there. That's going to be awesome. I'll do whatever it takes to get there. Now, the rest of my friends, they didn't want to do that. So what I demanded from myself is completely different. That's how you start getting to different levels and different teams. That doesn't mean that my friends were just bad players and they don't deserve to play college baseball. It just means that they didn't want to play it. When we think about sports adoption, these kids are going to choose something else. I'm gonna escape somewhere. That's what this whole game is about. This is why it was the America's pastime. It was a chance for people to escape from what their real life was. So now what kids are doing is they're going to esports because they don't have to listen to a coach that's super negative or thinks that they're worthless because they're not going to try to go play college baseball. If you have a coach like that, get away from them super fast, because it's not a healthy experience. You want someone that's going to be able to support you no matter what you do. That they're going to try to grow you as a person. That's why esports is on the rise. And I look at these numbers from average participation length, and it's pretty evident. Like, and also the lasting of the regular participation, like the age level. So baseball right now is at 10.5. So at 10.5, that's the average age that people then start quitting, right?
It used to be a lot.
Used to be 12.
I would say 12, yeah.
It used to be 12. Now it's getting to 10.5, right? And average length of participation is 3.3 years. Now, when I look down at the list, cross country, 12.7. Skateboarding, 12. Skiing and snowboarding, 12. Why are those a lot higher than baseball?
If I had to guess, they're...
And again, this is guesses. This is us speculating. My speculation is because it's a single-player sport.
Single-player sport. It's a little bit more niche, and it's probably a little bit more... I mean, I'm not saying there's no pressure in it, but it's like... Of course there's pressure. That's stupid of me to say, but I would say it's a little bit different in terms of, like, the environment that you're in.
Yeah.
And the pressures that might be pushed on you and things of that nature.
I think that's absolutely right. And the one that has the longest length of time that they play, like average years, surprisingly, is field hockey, flag football, and skiing and snowboarding. Flag football makes sense.
Yeah. I'm surprised they even labeled that.
Yeah. It makes sense. When you start analyzing kids and you start being very critical, instead of just letting them play and having them play, and then if they start getting a really peak in interest of like doing something greater, and you can give them little feedback. Like my dad used to feed me that stuff. He'd tell me college stories of him playing, or he would say, hey, what do you think of this school? Like just little tidbits. And then my mind would start going, and then he was just testing me to see if I really wanted to do it. Now, if I didn't want to do it, that dude was not going to push me. He's like, you want to go play chess? Go play chess. If you wanted to be on the debate team, go be on the debate team. If you want to be a bird watcher, you can be a bird watcher.
Right. Well, here's a little bit of advice I would give, because it's the same thing you're saying here. There are different conversations that need to take place at different times of an athlete's career. At the beginning, trying to figure out where your young athlete should start, asking questions is key, and not worrying about social status, not worrying about everything else that goes along with it, or expectations, or this is just what you have to do. Take those out of the equation. Ask questions, learn the environment that you're in, learn what's out there. You know your kid better than anybody else. You know where they're going to have success, you know where they're going to fail, and you know what they can take and you know what they can't take. And finding the right situation to start is paramount. And then as they grow through that, situation, of course new conversations are going to start, right? There's going to be conversations of, do you want to take this a little bit more serious? Do you want to, like, how much time do you want to put into this? And those questions are going to be answered. And if it does take a serious route, that's great, because there's different opportunities out there that can give you that.
And I want to make sure that people understand, like, the reason I give examples from my life, and obviously Dave gives examples from his life, is that they're just examples. Like, it's not set in concrete. We're not saying like, hey, this is the right path, this is how you have to do it. Because if we did that, we would be doing a huge disservice to this listener base, and we'd also do a huge disservice to the game of baseball. You got to find out, like, what does that person want to do? What is it going to make them happy, have fun, start their creativity, move in the right direction, really get the wheels turning to where they can grow as a person? That's massively important.
Well, and I'll just give you an example, because I think I've kind of come full circle with this whole thing. Like, I did not grow up playing select baseball. I didn't even know what it was. You know, I knew there were teams out there that did that stuff, but I never played in it.
But did you have fun playing competitive baseball?
But
like, you grew into it.
Oh, for sure, because I started off just playing it at a local church that was just up the street from me. I've never asked my parents this, but I'm 99% sure that they were just driving by and you could see the field right there and you saw people playing. They were like, "Would you like to play that?" And I was like,
nowadays, if there's some people like, "Oh, you play a church league?"
Yeah, and I was like, "Yeah, cool," because I've watched the Cardinals. Yeah, I want to play. Yeah.
I did the same thing. I played in CYC.
Started off playing there, then all of a sudden, kind of outgrew that experience because they I'm assuming all this, having never asked them. But I'm assuming that they saw me out in the backyard playing on my own, doing different things, and be like, "Oh, he must really like this. He seems to have a lot of fun with it. So let's find a different experience for him. Something maybe where he can do it a little bit more." And then they found me a local association. I started playing there. I went to their little draft, because that's what you did back in the day, to find a team. And then I found a team. Then I played on that, and that was pretty cool. And that led me up through like middle school. And obviously at that point in time, I was really loving it. And I played it all the time. I'd constantly be throwing the ball against the house, getting yelled at by my parents, but I loved doing it. And so all of a sudden they're like, he must really like this even more. Let's find another avenue for him. And then all of a sudden it came into playing some more tournaments and things like that. And then it got into high school, and then it got more serious, and it just kept trickling on. But there was always a point where, again, I'm sure that your parents, you know your kids, you know what they love. You're looking at them, and listen, parents will do anything for their children. That's what great parents do. And if they can tell that you are all in on it, then look for that next opportunity. But take that path. Like, that path is that's a proven winner right there.
There's different levels for different people, and everyone is unique in what experience that they want to choose. And understand, like, I like using the car industry for an example. You have Lambos and Ferraris, then you also have a Ford Focus, or in the middle ground, you have Jeeps, and then you can move up to Teslas, and then you can move up to the big old trucks that you can buy. You just got to pick which car do you want to get into.
Yeah.
And how I like to see it with our organization, just to give you guys insight, is that we like to be on that full spectrum, because we have teams that are local, and then we have teams that have super travel tournaments that they just go to massive events because they want to play in those massive events, and they'll go every weekend. Now, again, that's their decision. That's the Lambo. I want to have the best sports experience where I'm traveling across the country, playing against these different teams. I want to play a team against that is from Alabama, Florida, New York. I want to play against all those guys. And then you have the other teams that we have in our organization that say, hey, we just want to play local. We want to play strong tournaments locally. And we have other teams that say, hey, we just want to play in those AA events, and we want to do really well at that AA level. This is not a black or white. This is multicolor. This is blue, green, red. It's a huge spectrum. And directors that make a huge disservice is when they say, if you're playing rec baseball, you're wasting your money. If you're playing travel baseball and you're only playing local, you're wasting your money. Now, are there teams out there that could possibly be overcharging? Yeah, there can be. But again, go towards the experience, go towards the relationships, go towards the coach that's going to develop you or you feel comfortable with, and let's roll. Let's have fun. It's not all about Let's go to New York and play a 7-day tournament and see what we can do. Or travel all the way to California and play a 2-week schedule. If you want to do that, go for it.
And I
That's
think
not necessary.
I think at the end of the day, if you if you ask the right questions, you find the right people, they'll give you the answers. Yeah, it might be outside looking in. It might the perception is that there's only one way. And there's only one level of talent, and there's only one thing out there that you can do, and maybe you don't fit in that. Now, what do you do? I promise you there's way more options out there than you even know. So ask your questions. Do your homework. Understand there's no right, wrong way to do it. That's you figuring out the path and surrounding yourself with people who can help you with that.
It could be an economic choice, too. Do I want a lower cost or do I want a higher cost?
It could be my son plays 4 different sports, and I got to get him from A to B to C to D every night. I can't commit to this. I have that with so many players I coach, which is fine.
Yep. I mean, and again,
that is
if you want to
fine.
have a multi-sport experience, do it.
That is
I was like
fine.
that. Dave was like that. And then, or if you want to be the ultra baseball player that just plays baseball, I'm fine with that as well. It's what do you want to do, and what do you want to experience? Because you only have one career. I used to make that graphic all the time for the Tigers, and I think some people didn't realize why I was creating it. They're like, "Oh, I got one career. I got to make sure I get to college." No, I was saying you got one career. You have one experience, and then once you get to the real world, you can still play this game. Like, don't get confused on that. You can still play the game. I still jump into some men's league games every once in a while.
Yeah.
But you only get one career where you get to play with your buds and have an experience of a lifetime.
Right.
Why waste it on a crazy coach that thinks that if you're not trying to play college baseball, then you should just quit the game? Get away from that coach right away.
Yep. Agreed.
What's your closing pitch?
My closing pitch would be this. There are going to be labels put out on what your son or daughter should do. There are going to be people who have, opinions on this, and they're just giving opinions based on what their past experiences are, which is not right or wrong. It's just an opinion.
Narratives. That's what it is. It's a narrative.
So understand there's always different levels and different options out there. Not one option or one level is right or better than another one. First and foremost, do your homework, ask your questions, find the right fit for your son and daughter, and then let the process take care of itself. Continually ask questions. Take audit of the situation. Literally look at that situation and be like, is this right? Is my son or daughter enjoying it? Man, they seem to be really, really, really wanting more. So let's find a little bit more. Let's not throw a 100-game schedule at them tomorrow and be like, hey, you said you wanted it. You said you liked it. Don't do that. But just add in a little bit more and keep auditing the situation and keep looking at it. And then keep continuously finding what options are out there that are available to you. Not that you have to go from team to team to team to team to find the right experience. Maybe the right experience is the one you're currently in. But again, just keep auditing it. Know that there's different options out there. Don't let labels and perceptions block or mislead you from what is really, truly there.
I am big on player development. We used to use that a lot, like just talking to players, because that we are huge into that. But I'm moving more to, because I see that there's a huge problem in the sports world, and it's about experiences. It hurts me when I see a kid that quits baseball because he literally is so stressed out and feels like there's so much pressure on him. A 9, 10, 11, a 12-year-old kid should not feel that way. This game should be a way for them to escape and build relationships. And if I don't blame them going towards esports. I don't. They're trying to escape from something, and they have a social world in there, and that's what the metaverse is. They can have a conversation with their buds and hang out and have fun. COVID proved that because they weren't able to do it in real life. I'm just afraid that we might lose them if we don't move in the direction of we need to make sure that kids are having an awesome experience and still learning life lessons. That doesn't mean that we're being soft on them. It's not about being soft. It's about making sure that we understand the context of the conversation and the age group. My dad mentioned that in the last podcast, which is putting yourself at the 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old age group, still being stern, still trying to teach them life lessons, still making sure that there is like, this is right, this is wrong, but also understanding that it's not about, we're going to play college baseball. We're going to go play professional baseball. That's the goal. That's not the goal. The goal is to have fun and make sure that you're learning.
Right. 100%.
Guys, this is this episode of The Closing Pitch. Please send us an email. We'd love to start a conversation. Some of you guys have already done that with me. I think that's awesome. I mean, I'm in middle of conversations through email. It's awesome. Sometimes I'm a little delayed just because of the regular work that's inside of the Tigers from a marketing standpoint and making sure that I get the things needed for our coaches and our directors. But please keep sending those. I will get to every email. Dave will also get to emails. Have you gotten any emails, Dave?
Couple.
Yeah,
couple. Always like seeing them. I mean, I get some emails. I get more so I hear it through conversations that I have. It's like people are like, hey, man, I've listened to the podcast and I really like this topic or that. And that's really neat to hear. It's just, again, it validates it for us as to why we're doing it. And, you know, maybe I'd welcome some different opinions. If you have a different opinion, I'd love to have a conversation on that.
Without a doubt. And if you guys really want to get our attention, just go to Twitter, because you know how that is. We like to escape on Twitter.
There you go.
That's a good way to get our attention right away. So follow us on Twitter if you want to. Shameless plug. Also, if you are more interested in baseball content, like really specific baseball content, we've been creating and building out our Tiger interview series. That's just conversations that people that we find interesting in the baseball space. We'd have some softball. We've had a softball person on as well. So if you want to learn a little bit more about coaching and player development and where this thing is going, there's some very fascinating conversations that I've had. Tim Jones, one of our directors, he's hosting some of them too, and he says to me, he's like, man, this is awesome. Like, I get to have these conversations, and I can't believe like we're having like a 45-minute conversation on this topic, and this person's willing to do it. And it's exactly how I imagine building this thing out. So if you want to jump into those conversations and listen to them, you're going to learn a lot. Make sure you subscribe to this show, 5 stars preferably, and then we will catch you in the next episode.
See you guys.
Thank you for watching or listening or both to The Closing Pitch. If you would like to get your closing pitch featured on the show, we use a podcasting app called Anchor, where you can submit your statement or question via audio. Or what you can do is comment in the comment section of this post. We also accept direct messages. Please give us the A-OK if you do send us a DM to use your statement or question on the show. Last thing, please give us a review on your platform of choice, 5-star preferably, and we value your opinion, and this allows us to reach more people. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you in the next episode.